When I was a kid, I fell in love with computers. And I loved that a computer could take something in your imagination and help you make it real. And it's why I feel so fortunate to be working on what I believe is the next major leap in computing, from phones to glasses. Introducing Specs, a new kind of computer designed for real life and built into see-through glasses.
Hello and welcome to Spatial Realities, your podcast for professionals involved in XR, spatial computing and the metaverse. My name is Thomas Riedel, host of the podcast and tech journalist from Cologne, Germany. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host Thomas Bedenk, one of the most experienced XR experts in Berlin, Germany. Greetings.
Hey Thomas, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We have June the 16th, 2026. And that's actually a great date to have for all those guys who are into numbers, 16/6/2026 and stuff like that. But this is also supposed to be a very revolutionary day. We just witnessed the keynote of even Jobs Spiegel on the stage of AWE in the US. AWE Augmented World Expo is one of the most important XR conferences of the Western world, I would say. And we saw something we expected for a whole year, because last year, even Spiegel stand exactly where he was today and just announced that they will announce a new glasses meant for consumers called Snap Specs. And it happened today, finally.
Yeah, we were looking forward to it, and they showed some stuff. They didn't show everything. We already know it's not coming up before fall, but it was definitely interesting what they showed, they didn't show, what they specified, what they didn't specify. So I think they're not quite done yet, but it's taking a nice shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking nice shapes is maybe a good word to say here, because we finally saw the shape of the new specs and we saw it from different angles also. And my first impression was, okay, it still looks like glasses from Snap. It has some similarities to what we saw with the Snap Spectacles 5, which we saw 2024. But they really worked on the design, and it looks like a fashionable, high-quality designer glasses, I have to say. I'm pretty satisfied wearing myself black shiny glasses right now. This is also black shiny glasses, looking like you have really accumulated money in your life. When you wear those glasses, I think everybody will say, wow, okay, this guy must be rich. It really communicates value, I have to say.
Yes, it does look decent enough, I would say. And that's something I noticed. He used the word enough quite a lot on stage. And I think it became clear throughout the presentation that he's excited. He looked very excited, but at the same time, he knows what he has. And that's not a totally consumer-ready device, I think. I think he knows that this is not the massive leap that will push it in everyone's face, basically. So, because it is still quite big and heavy, in the end, it's almost twice as heavy as the mid-Ray-Ban display, for example. It is way heavier with 132 grams than normal glasses. But we're getting much closer for the capability, and we saw this. So he did a lot of framing in his keynote. He tried to make the price sound cheap when it's actually not so cheap. He tried to frame the wearable and capable diagram, right? Like the potato in the bottom left. That was quite funny, actually.
Yeah.
But he knew he has to differentiate from the AI glasses because it is still a pretty chunky piece of eyewear.
Yeah.
But it is much lighter than the 5th generation with 226 grams. So they did quite a lot of improvement while keeping very similar specs, I would say.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think the choice of material for the outside of the glasses, how did they say, it's the plastic titanium, of course some marketing bullshit, but it's fine. It's Swiss TR90 polymer. I guess can deliver some sturdiness at the same time, is lighter than the material they used before. The material before was just some really sturdy plastic, which worked for a developer version, and I guess a couple of grams are there, which was taken away with that material. But to pick up where you just said, how he actually went through all the specs and how he explained everything, that it was pretty obvious that in this 30 minutes, it was only 30 minutes, he tried really everything to show what they had done in the last 10 years. And I think I respect that in the first place, because 10 years of work went into those glasses. And I saw people in the YouTube chat, everybody watched it via YouTube because that's how they live streamed it. Of course, people were already talking bullshit like typical YouTube chat is, like, what is that ugly piece of plastic and stuff like that. And of course, they have no experience in how to actually design that glasses and how much energy and money went into that. Almost $4 billion.
And that's some of the investor pressure reports came out today as well. Like, get rid of those glasses. And he's already framing it as a long-term bet again, which it is, right? It's been that from the beginning for Snap, and they always position it like this. So it shouldn't be a surprise for the investors, but still there's a push to not do this as Snap, because they might be more valuable or more successful if they didn't have the long-term glasses vision. And the one aspect he mentioned also very in the beginning, it is a vertical integration, and that differentiates it from a lot of the competitors out there, like that use like just a off-the-shelf combination of things for smart glasses. This is really the OS, the development environment, the optics. He said 7,000 patents. Yeah, whatever
7,000. Yeah, of course, I believe him that they have 7,000 patents. Yeah, pretty sure they don't put anything in these glasses, but they have them.
Don't trigger me with patents, because I can start raging about trivial patents, but we don't want to do that right now.
No. But where I wanted to go with that is that it was very clear, and he transparently mentioned it also, that as a little boy or a young man, he saw what Steve Jobs was doing, and it was really inspiring him. And he was not wearing the turtleneck sweater today, but of course, everything was a little bit like an Apple or Steve Jobs would have done it with the iPhone or with the first computer. The presentation was like that. The style was like that. He was walking around a little bit like Steve Jobs. And the thing is with that when Steve Jobs announced a new product, it actually was a leap. It felt like a leap. So when they announced the iPhone, it was like everybody was jaw-dropping, because it was something which we actually never have seen before. Because from what we knew and what we got delivered, there was a big gap between that. And the question here is now, if there is a big gap between the Snap Spectacles 5 from 2024 and the Snap Specs we saw today, And I would say there is a gap, but it is way smaller than I thought, to be honest. So the hype was bigger and the hopes were bigger because they announced it a little bit like, okay, we will show you something which will be jaw-dropping. But I guess it was interesting and it is a great device, I believe, but it is not the jump they wanted to make. So that you could say, okay, it is something similar like Steve Jobs entering the stage, announcing something which is just amazing. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. But on the other hand, you have to be fair in a term that a lot of the Apple announcements were even more iterative. You know, they had the iPhone moment, obviously. And even at that point, it wasn't as obvious as you say now to everyone that this will be. So there were still a lot of people who said full touchscreen won't work. You know, it wasn't proven yet
Nobody
that it
needs
will
it.
work. Yeah, it wasn't proven. Same with iPad, didn't even have a camera, the first one. And so there was also a lot of critical thinking. It turned out in the end that the iPhone was revolutionary, obviously. But a lot of the other announcements that were framed the same exact way were not revolutionary either. So yes, but he wanted to kind of ride that train, and I think it was in a humble enough way so to feel good. I think he was really feeling that moment, and he wanted to do it in a similar way. But he didn't have the punch, and I think that's what you mean, especially because we saw a lot of relatively high-level stuff, but a lot of questions are still open, right? And if you compare it with like the distance to the glasses announced 2 years ago, you can even go further back. Like if you look at the Magic Leap, that was announced
10 years ago.
No, Magic Leap was 2019, I think, or something. When it was released.
Yeah.
And 2018.
Magic Leap 2018.
2018.
Magic Leap 2 2022. Yeah.
So one number I found there is interesting because he tried to frame it as such a good price. The Magic Leap 1 was released for $2,295. So it's basically the same price point, and we know how that went. You know, they were completely consumer focused with this. Of course, adjusted for inflation, that's a little higher now. So the price of the specs is cheaper than that one, but it's a very similar price level, let's say.
Yeah.
Of course, he decided to compare it to the HoloLens and the Apple Vision Pro because they're much more expensive, to still make it look like it's a very good price. But we all know $2,195 for what we're expecting to get. You know, we're not 100% sure what we get, but also what we saw in the demos, what we know from the 2024 version. It's gonna be, I think, a very hard sell to a regular consumer. But I think this exciting part, on the other hand, is that they right away said there is a native development kit. There is extended developer support and all that's still going on. So I can see this model getting much more use in like marketing things and museums and stuff like that compared to the 2024 version. Added battery time is another thing that we have to talk about.
Yeah.
But one reference I still wanted to mention because it is pretty important. The Magic Leap 1 already had like 40 something field of view, and
Magic Leap 1 was 50
Leap,
degrees. Magic Leap 2 was 70
50
degrees.
Yeah, exactly. The second one was 70 degrees. So we know, everyone who has been in this environment knows how this feels for quite a long time. From the earlier specs, from the HoloLens 2, from the Magic Leap 2 that actually has wider field of view, and so on. However, they managed to put it in a much lighter system. So the experience will not be, I think, drastically different, besides, of course, the added comfort of wearing it. However, all those earlier advanced AR glasses, they had straps most of them had straps like we're more used from VR headsets, like the HoloLens and so on. Now wearing 132 or 136 grams device like glasses isn't necessarily more comfortable than wearing a 500-gram device like a VR headset. So we'll have to see. I guess more people have to get their hands on it. But so it's definitely impressive what they managed to pack into the glasses. It's just different perspectives you take, compared to what has been there, what we know in terms of what price you need to be successful. So there are a lot of angles you can look at this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the comparisons we made are only partially fair because the glasses we saw today is much more capable in every way. We have to say, by the way, if you take $2,200 from 2018, it's today almost $3,000. So also that is a little
adjusted
bit more
for inflation.
That's a little bit more. Yeah. But still, it's very interesting how close they are. And now we also have to answer the question if, this is the form factor, the technology, the design, the glasses, the product, which will actually lead to maybe a mainstream breakthrough. We will answer that question at the end of the show. Because now we will, of course, talk about the specs a little bit. We're going not through all the specs, but a couple of them because it's interesting to talk about them. By the way, of course, he did it like everybody would do it, I guess. Talk in the first place about all the other things before announcing and showing the specs. So he had to talk about Lens Studio, and there's also something interesting happening there. One have to say. First one is, I think, which is very remarkable, is getting ready for the agentic developer ecosystem. So there's also a shift taking place within Snap, and of course they will also use AI to develop from the get-go, I guess, since it was possible. No doubt about that, because they're a start-uppy enterprise thingy, however you would call over 10-year-old company, but still very modern development happening there. So they, of course, they use AI, and agentic development is, of course, very important. So I guess this is some very good news.
Yeah, I think the development angle was kind of expected. They had to do this, they had to say something AI, but what I think is really nice that they do have. We don't know the details yet, but they do have Claude integration, Codex integration. They say they have an agentic system to
in a beta version
match Unity content to Specs Studio content, which was a little bit. I'm not sure what to expect there. But
in less than 2 hours was something ported. They said as
that was for
example.
the native. That was for the native development kit, not for the Unity conversion. But still, I think that's a good thing to get something quick in development. But we'll have to look at the details, what it actually means. But having that, he was pretty clear about the native development kit with C# and camera access and all that. That opens a lot of professional venues, like entertainment and marketing and so on, to use those glasses, potentially even factory and other ecosystems. Probably because they knew that if they want to sell at least a decent amount, they have to address this market, or at least not completely lock out that market. I would say they haven't really addressed the market because they clearly presented it as a consumer device.
Yeah, I mean, but the development will be very important, right? So that they still work on Lens Studio is clear, absolutely clear that they would do it. But also integrating all the things happening right now in the general ecosystem of software development. I guess this also shows that they invest in that very much and that they want everybody to participate. I'm thinking about this because there are hackathons taking place, and people more and more use AI on those hackathons to do things, and you cannot show up with a device which you cannot do agentic hacking anymore. So you would just be outside. Yeah.
It's a great thing that they do this. What I'm still wondering, like, why do they feel like it's necessary to say we have 450,000 developers? Because that's obviously the total
Steve Jobs
amount
would have said it too.
Yeah. Okay. Not everything Steve Jobs did was like perfect. Anyway, most of them have not been developing for specs, obviously. You can, and that's the cool thing of what they're building with their own authoring studio. You can relatively easy then bring them over to the specs, even if they were developed for the screen. But
that's why they do this.
I wonder why not just say, like we have like 1,000 companies working with the old gen or the last gen already, or something like this. Because if you clearly look at it as a product announcement, think about this as a product announcement to a market rather than to developers. I think it was still more targeting developers, this keynote.
I think so too, yeah.
But if it was a consumer announcement, pretty much everything was missing. What do you even do with this? There were some demos shown. They were pretty cool, but it wasn't anything like, like here's your new phone and you can do all of this and that. So I'm wondering, will there be this big consumer announcement, or will it be a little bit like with the Apple Vision Pro, where they had the kind of consumer announcement, which was still kind of, okay, we will do something with Disney. It wasn't. It was showing more than this today, obviously, the Vision Pro, but it was still not like a full blown. You have to buy this for this and that reason, and we have all those apps lined up, and we'll have to see if we will see that for this device, or if in the end they realize how much marketing will they spend on this, right? Will they actually target a wide consumer base like Meta does with the Ray-Ban, or will they just position it slightly different than the last gen? I'm not sure. We'll have to see.
I mean, the observation that it has been a keynote mainly for developers is absolutely true. You saw it in the language, in what they actually talked about. It was more like a developer keynote. What would we have been like if you see the WWDC, there's a second keynote, which is the developer keynote. And this was actually sounding more like that than the main WWDC keynote.
But the CTO will still be speaking, might be speaking right now while we record the podcast.
1 p.m., which is 3 hours from where it started. So still, after recording, maybe it will be done, he will be talking. But it will be even more for developers. It will be just another thing for developers. But you're absolutely right. There was not the time and love spent to show use cases where everybody has to say afterwards, seeing it, I need those glasses. Like this is what Apple would have done. Like, look, you can do it this way. Have you ever cooked with CookMate like this? Yeah, like, look, I have an egg. I want to boil the egg. Suddenly my toast, I put it here in the toaster. What's happening with my scrambled eggs and stuff like that? Like they would have arranged something very high quality video and just showed how easy everything works now when you use the specs. And they didn't do it. You're absolutely right. So that's a very good hint. Why didn't they do it? That's the question. Because it's actually not that easy, everything. It doesn't look that good.
I think they were, on the other hand, they were really, and I appreciate that, they were really honest with what they showed in terms of the demos. They were honest in terms of the transparency of the objects, right? The graphical fidelity, they were honest. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really cool thing, to be brave enough to do this. Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily, like we just said, it's not necessarily selling it to everyone. It's more like being realistic about it. And I think the whole keynote tried to be the big reveal, mm-hmm. but always with this hesitation of knowing what it is at the moment. At least that's how it felt to me. And it's a really cool device, and might finally get to some more specs.
I have to say something else before we go to the specs, because that's also interesting. What they showed a little bit was like new work stuff, like connect your display. This was one thing. Connect your display and work. And they had like 20 seconds where they talked a little bit about how to use it professionally in your office. And there I thought, okay, I want to see more of that. How is it possible that I can suddenly put my screen on my specs? Because this is something I didn't know that it's actually possible.
I think he was relatively clear in terms of, you hook up your USB-C device and it's like a display floating in the air, like a lot of the other glasses can. It's more like ours can do that too, and you will have a good time just watching a movie or something like that, or
working in an office. Like
I'm
emails.
not 100% sure that will work well, depending on what screen resolution we get, what kind of color sequential or not display, and so on. Because then font sizes would need to be adjusted for the device. We'll have to see. I think it's more like plug it in and do your gaming in the airplane as well. I think it's that kind of feature,
which is interesting because it's not a display where you can completely make it black.
It's not, but they can tint it, so it depends on how dark that will get. But it's not mostly so you can also use it outside in different light conditions. I think, not to make it fully immersive. I don't think so.
And if and now finally come to some specs, those tinting, that's not triggered by you, like with the specs 5, but it's triggered by UV light when you step outside, I believe.
It says auto tinting. I'm not quite sure if it can also be triggered by the developer, because sometimes that's important. Like on the Magic Leap 2, you could say it even had, I think the Magic Leap 2 even had partial dimming, and that was quite interesting. And you
Spectacles
could also
has it too.
Yeah, okay.
The fifth one, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure right now.
Yeah, but it's so in 10 seconds like that.
So the question is it complete auto or is it developer controlled? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe because it takes 10 seconds, it's not developer controlled.
It seemed more like it is to adjust for different light conditions to be able to use the AR features in bright sun as well as indoors.
Specs of the specs. We have 2 versions of the glasses. One which is 42 millimeters, one which is 52 millimeters, and the first one weighs 132 grams, the second one 136 grams, which is of course because both have exactly the same interior, but the outside is a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it's a different physical size. That's why.
Which of course makes it also easier to develop for, and you just have different exterior size. So people with a bigger face, people with a smaller face. So they designed it in the first place for the smaller form factor and made the bigger one around it. right? So there's more room.
I think you have a limited optimal window basically, and if you're getting too far outside of that with different IPDs for different people, it's getting tricky, and that's why at some point they must have realized we'd rather do two versions, like for example for the international market in different IPDs and different populations, they couldn't do one catch-all size, and that's why they decided for two sizes.
Yeah, I think that's a very good decision, and that's actually great news because nobody expected to have two sizes, I guess. So that's also great news to have here. What is also comes with the size is the weight. It's 40% lighter than the 5th generation of spectacles, and that's huge, of course. If you can almost half the weight, that's great. But then one have to ask, okay, if they would have used the plastic titanium, to use the marketing words, for the 5th generation of the spectacles, would they also have been way lighter?
No, I don't think.
Or did they also do something with the interior?
I don't think that polymer makes such a huge difference. You know, there is quite a lot of architectural changes and pieces missing.
I guess the optics,
why,
right?
The optics, I think they're using a very similar LCOS display technology and then a very similar projector. And so I don't think they changed too much, but it's very speculative. I'm not sure. But they must have saved some weight somewhere. And that's why I also don't think we'll talk about the battery life maybe right now. 4 hours mixed use. So that means Bluetooth notification announcements as well as the display being on. I see with the size like this, no puck, the weight only 132 grams. It has to be more than the 30 minutes of the old specs. It has to be more.
Yeah.
But continuous use for an experience, I would say it's probably an hour, not 4 hours. So I'm speculating, but from the weight, from everything that has to be in there, I just can't see how 4 hours are actual experience time. So if that's why they keep saying mixed use and 20 hours with the case, that sounds fantastic, 20 hours with the case. Yeah. But in reality, that means, if you use it intensively for an hour, you probably have to charge it, and then you can't wear it all day or something like that. So yeah, it's not as rosy. I think they can't do magic, but it's pretty. I'm pretty impressed they got it down to 132 grams with all that engineering. What I'm still wondering with the sizes we discussed, with the optics we discussed, will it be one of those? On the pictures, it looks relatively fashionable. Of course, they're very good again in how they take the pictures. We know this by now. Also very nice black and white, high quality black and white pictures of those celebrities. I actually didn't know them, but I guess they're celebrities. So that's pretty well taken. The two sizes makes it look less bulky. But what I'm mostly wondering, will it again sit further out a little bit than it's not a bird bath like some other glasses that makes it usually terrible ahead of like in front of your face. But even the Meta display, Ray-Ban display, they don't look like normal glasses because they're a little further out than they should be. And I'm wondering, in all the pictures and all the try-ons we've seen, did they show them actually using the glasses or just looking good with the glasses? So we'll have to see until real users will test them, how it actually looks wearing them.
Which adds to your thoughts here is that there are prescription lenses you can order and they get shipped, and you put them in front of the lenses, and it's just like a mini glasses. Like a how do you say like two glasses next to each other, and they are connected with a light metal frame.
like with a bridge over your nose, right? And then you just clip them in. That looked fantastic.
They're very thin, very cool, very like very minimal design. Just you clip them to them, but they will add, of course, a lot of weight in the first place. Also, maybe like another 25 to 50%. We do not know what range they offer, and it adds to your question. How far will the glasses be away from your eyes? Because you have to add these extra prescription glasses and the room for those prescription glasses so that they actually fit and still work, right? So very good question. And I guess we will see when we finally get them into our own hands and can try them, or see better pictures of YouTubers doing that, so that we can actually answer this question. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, 51 degrees field of view. I mean, to add to the battery thing, I think 1 hour of intensive use is somehow what is the standards nowadays. Like every glasses there are, if you use them continuously, they are empty after 1 hour. Like if I would do videos with my Meta Ray-Ban, if I would play with the Meta Ray-Ban display, with all the other glasses, after 1 hour, every of those glasses are empty. So I think that's a good idea to make it similar, to again find the sweet spot of performance and durability and how long you can actually use it. That's my take of it.
And it will depend heavily on the use case. Like, will the cool thing of the glasses, and that's something they haven't changed from the new version, is still the dual Snapdragon design. We don't know exactly which chips. I doubt it's the completely newly announced Qualcomm chipset, but we'll have to see. Because I think that probably draws too much power. But they have it in both temples, in both sides of the glasses, 2 chips. One does all the AR and tracking and so on, and the other one is there for running the experiences, basically. So it's a very interesting design choice to make sure that you have this super low motion to photon latency of 7 milliseconds. That's pretty awesome. I don't think that includes hand tracking. You probably feel more delay with hand tracking. But if they can get that running for the visual elements compared to the real world, it is already pretty good. I think you will still notice a slight floating, very slight floating. But they're also very good, it seemed, from the last ones that I used, to stabilize that, to make it look like it's at the right place, the stuff. I'm pretty confident they can do a very good job at
if they do the same
stabilizing the 3D image.
With the spectacles, it will be enough. I can tell you. I wear them a lot of times, and I think it's enough. And I think this is also where you can build upon. Like you don't have to get better all the time, but when you reach some state which is good enough and still isn't wasting your battery and all your CPU power and whatnot. So makes actually sense to keep with that stats and then make it better later.
There was a lot of other features that they didn't show, right? And they didn't show a live demo. They didn't show, for example, they have really nice technical announcement on their tech blogs, like how they synchronize different classes. The whole shared space thing is such an important topic for them, but they only very briefly showed it on a like trailer video.
Yeah, which touches what you said with that they didn't actually show nice use cases where everybody would say, "Wow, that's great! I want to have them."
And I think they will show more of this stuff. It's just I'm just wondering why, because if the general audience sees any of this, I mean, it's still AW is a experts conference. It's not like for like the general public watches that. But if the general public watches this, or the tech space even watches this, then they would watch the keynote, right? They wouldn't watch all the extra talks and technical talks and so on. So yeah, I'm just wondering why they didn't show more of those really cool, unique features, because it is pretty good how you can have social experiences without any complicated tech with the specs. So I'm just wondering why they didn't show something like that.
Yeah, I mean their own Snap Fest has already taken place, so they didn't announce anything there. So I wonder when they will do that, show more use cases and stuff like that. I'm not sure they will ever do that this year. Maybe next year.
They would have to. I mean, they said release shipping fall 2026, right? And launch markets US, UK, France, and not Germany. So it's not coming to Germany this year. But that's coming back to the question we asked earlier. It's coming back to but France is not far and UK is not far, so it will be possible to get your hands on it.
The big question is here: why France and why not Germany? How big can the difference be? Okay, they eat more croissant, we eat more sausage, we have a totally different accent of European language. Okay. But actually, come on, it's just around the border. It's like, come on, give it also to Germans. What's the problem here?
I don't know. I mean,
maybe that opens up another thing they also talked about in the keynote, which is privacy. They had been key to really underline that privacy is important for them, and it was a little bit hollow, to be honest. Like, oh, privacy is important. Privacy is important. If you repeat it twice, it's not double the privacy. So yes, they have their LED lights glowing when somebody records something. They protect the data by design. They say they prioritize on-device processing and
when
stuff
possible.
Like that. When possible, yeah, stuff like that. They said that, but to be honest, that's just standard stuff, which I hear from every company, and I was not so convinced it was something special, like special privacy by Snap design. No, it was just normal privacy things I expect, and I would love to hear something like, okay, you have your glasses and you wear them in your home, in private talks and stuff like that. We now show you how we be sure that really nobody listens or we can't hear what you say and stuff like that. And they didn't do that. And I was a little bit disappointed about that, because that's a big topic. That's a very big topic. And maybe that's even already the argument why they didn't bring it to Germany. I don't know, because we love privacy. But yeah, I was a little bit... that was also not very well scripted, to be honest. The whole keynote was well scripted. Yeah. That was a little bit like, okay, he repeated himself, and
it was a little bit like he has to now. You know, like he acknowledged the fact by his opening sentence about privacy that this doesn't work without privacy. He says that, and then he follows it up with nothing. Really, it was 2 sentences about privacy, not even a slide, if I remember correctly.
No slide.
And just saying, yeah, it's important, and we do all the stuff that everyone does, the same, more or less shady way. Hopefully, they do it less shady, but with everything that's going on here, you know, AI run on cameras and all the stuff that you need for augmented reality, I am still absolutely convinced whoever wants to be really breakthrough successful in this space has to a certain degree, solve this problem. And right now, they haven't shown anything in terms of solving that problem. They just LED say, yeah, if we can, it runs on the device, but probably not yet, because AI is not yet running on the device. And also we're filming, but we'll let you know ahead of time. There's nothing specific. So I'm a bit disappointed as well in this point. We don't want to make it only about this, but I do think this is the key to really making it successful for the consumer. You have to tackle two things: show them use cases they actually want, and make sure you have a certain level of privacy.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, for example, Google tried pushing Gemini on me for Google Home. I am using Gemini AI on actually on a second Google account I have, not my primary account.
How clever.
But as soon as they said, hey, now have it on home, there were like 3 bullet points. They were like, it's going to be cool. It answers more stuff. Say yes now. That's it. And then if I clicked yes there, I would have actually agreed that humans will listen to this at any point they want. They're reviewing, they're serving it, they're saving it on the server indefinitely. Everything that Alexa in the old version and Google Home in the old version promised not to do, or at least unless you opted in, they're suddenly doing by just hitting a button.
Yeah.
They make you hit the button, right? But they don't tell you that they're doing all this.
Old Google Home Assistant was also opt-out, as far as I know. So I'm using it since 10 years. But
not at the same levels as this is now.
I mean, it's more important now that you have AI systems where all the knowledge is included, and you really want to be more transparent about it and not less. And I'm sure I've also opted in with the new Gemini for Google Home, and there was an info banner saying, we will, if you don't do anything here, we will just do it as you just described, Thomas. You can change it later in the settings. Like that. That's the way they say it.
But they didn't. For me, in the messaging, there wasn't clear, we record all this. That was only after I actually asked Gemini in the other chat to compare the terms of the old and the new version, basically. That's where I found out the differences, not because they told me.
Do you remember we talked about Snap and Lens Studio and stuff, of course, and former episodes of the podcast, and they said there will be some kind of a marketplace when the Snap specs comes out.
He did mention that.
Did they mention it?
He did mention it in the keynote. He said there will be a way to do purchases, and it will be live at launch.
Cool.
So you can make money with it. It is what he said. How that looks or any details, I don't think were announced.
Because for now, if you publish as a developer a new app, it will be pushed to every Snap Spectacles which is turned on.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure they won't do that. And this is also the clearest indication, Thomas, again, coming back to the number of 450,000 developers, right? You probably have not gotten 450,000 lenses pushed to your device automatically.
No, but the couple of hundreds lenses they have for the spectacles.
Absolutely. I get what you're saying. I'm just saying the dimensions are completely different. And that's why they were still able to do it this way.
Yes.
But I'm sure they have to change that for the launch.
Of course, absolutely. I hope they will do, because also from an IT security standpoint, imagine you have a developer which tries to put malware on the glasses. He just has to do some app which is okay, push it, and then he can see and hear everything you do of all these Snap Spectacles or Snap Specs.
I mean, the user still has to launch the lens.
Yes,
but
at least once. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's something they need to solve if they really want to make this the new computational platform. Like the narrative from the very start, we've heard so often, don't look down, look up, look in the world. We know the reality is a little bit different. Even with AR, it can actually distract you from the real world even more than your smartphone can. But there's potential to improve situations, right? To actually make it better, to actually augment us as humans But yeah, how much are we there yet? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, when the battery is empty, you will focus again, like on the real world. I get asked a lot of times, even, which is actually a stupid question, but normal people can ask stupid questions. It's fine. Thomas, with your Meta Ray-Bans, when the battery is empty, can you still look through the glasses? Yes, I can. This is also, of course, here the case. And I think they will, when it's right that the chromatic glasses are photosensitive, I guess that's the right expression here, for UV light, then they will even get sunglasses when you leave the building and the sun is shining.
Yeah, electrochromic, your first approach was actually correct, I think. But
Really? Okay.
yeah, I think we've seen a lot of cool things. The removable prescription glasses, the extended developer tools, the native developer tools, the massively reduced weight, millions of colors, I would say standard field of view, but with a very compact device. It's not so standard.
Let's sneak in 35% increase in look-through.
Yeah, what they mean with that is that the waveguides are still highly transparent. I don't know if they meant both directions. That's also an important thing, you know. On the pictures, they made it look very much like you can crystal clear see the eyes of the people. It is something, if you've ever used a HoloLens or something like that, even with the snaps, it was still a little bit there, but already quite a bit improved, I think. If the devices are running and you don't have the real eye contact anymore with that other person in the room, it gives you a weird feeling, and that's, I think it's still happening because the stuff is distracting you. You're focusing somewhere else where you wouldn't usually focus and things like that. So it still gives you a bit of a strange feeling. But if they at least see through that in many conditions you can at least see the eyes, that will definitely help with the social factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you were just summarizing the event and what we saw today. And I think what we saw was a great presentation of a very impressive new AR glasses, which is best of its class, best ever we saw on a consumer glasses or glasses you can actually buy. So what Snap has here with its 7 trillion patents, and it's actually nice design, which you can wear without looking like a meme, finally, is something which nobody else has on the market. So they not only launched just another AR glasses, but something special nobody has and will have for a long time. I think that's very remarkable.
I think they didn't launch it yet, to be fair, right? So we'll have to see. If it comes out in fall, hopefully it does. And then a lot of the actual use we're imagining and deduct from wearing the earlier glasses and so on. I'm sure if they reduce it to 132 grams, there have to be some compromises. We'll see when we actually get our hands on it and try it out. But it looks, as far as what we can see from the specs, it's definitely a very good step forward from the last gen. It saved a lot of weight compared to last gen. If they preserve all the features and the qualities of the last gen, it's a great step. In the end, I still think it's not super consumer ready unless they show a lot more still to justify that price tag.
I'm wondering
for a normal customer to buy it, not us or influencers or agencies. That's a good price for them.
I'm wondering if they deliberately did it in two parts, like, okay, we have the AWE in the US, a lot of developers here, the XR industry is watching. We do a more developer-focused presentation, show some stuff there, show first glimpse of what we already can show, because we are still in development. We will only launch it in 5 months from now, so maybe that's the thing. And then later they show all the other things, and more consumer oriented. That might be the way they're thinking.
Honestly, I think they did a good job in showing, hey, they are real. and they show something and they show progress. But I also got a little bit the feeling that they aren't quite as far as they wanted to be for the announcement. And that's why they did it like they did it. Because that was set in stone, right? We knew there has to be this announcement. The investors were expecting it. The audience was expecting. They announced there will be the specs revealed, basically. So they had to reveal whatever they had now. And I think some of the things we wanted to see were maybe not as ready as they should have been.
Yeah, but they sponsored the AWE exactly for that, so that they can announce something. So they have to announce something, else it would be better to wait until next year or so. So I totally understand that. To summarize, what I feel is like when they will launch, these will be the best AR glasses out there for quite a while, worldwide. Like it's like there will be no better AR glasses whatsoever. Like
I'm not 100%, because we don't know what Meta might show. You know,
Meta will show only a second display on the left eye.
Maybe not. We don't know. So I think there is a chance that someone else might show something similar still, but there is a good chance that they will be in the lead for a little bit, because the package they put together is really nice, and I would love to have Daniel back on the podcast to talk a bit more technical details, because I'm sure they did wonders to make this possible. It's just we're also looking from the general reality of marketing these glasses, who will use them, what will they use them for, and so on. So hopefully we can have someone back on the podcast at some point. I'm sure they're very busy right now.
Probably, yeah. $2,195, which will be almost 3,000 euro. No, 2,499 euro. What do you think? How much is it in euro?
The big difference is the tax added on top, which depending on the state you're living in, or if you're a business or not a business, it matters or it doesn't matter.
I mean, to be honest, if you are a business, this is a no-brainer, right? 2,500 euro, no problem.
It's no problem. It's not a no-brainer, because you still have to justify what do you do with it. And I think for some, it's clearly a must-have. But remember, the last specs were available in like a $100 lease.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So specifically for those developers to make an easy threshold. We don't know if we'll see something like that. I somehow doubt that's what they first announced. If it's not a huge success in terms of selling those, they might still do something similar again to use their stock with the developers and so on.
But for
I would love to know what they think they can sell of this. I would love to.
They didn't say anything. Yeah.
No, of course not.
Yeah, but for $2,200, and you have a B2B business, you want to have it on the shop floor, do something, use it to show things to your customers, train people, and have fun with it. Not targeting actually the mainstream, because millions will have them, but just for B2B use case, I guess this is an absolute no-brainer. Like the Snap
you
Spectacles.
Keep saying no-brainer. I don't think it's a no-brainer, because what do you do with it?
But the spectacles, of course, they were really clunky and heavy, and they were a little bit of pain on the nose. But these ones look like they're actually comfortable. We hope they are comfortable. And if they deliver what they just announced, I guess $2,200 for the best AR glasses out there sounds very nice, and I
does sound
what
very
reasons
nice.
are there not to buy them?
No, okay. Well, I think we wanted to come to an end, but what I mean is like it really depends on your use case and if these will prove helpful at all for that use case. If they're too fragile for the shop floor, if they have other problems, if for example the battery time is just not enough for what you're trying to do in training or in remote assistance or whatever, or the Wi-Fi signal is not good enough. There's so many reasons that could disqualify this for a certain use case. And that's why, I mean, it's not a no-brainer, but it's a good price for a fully featured AR headset that you can develop for. Because I think if they actually pull that off, that you can fully deploy your own custom solutions with this native, whatever it means, it wasn't super clear, then at least that opens up the B2B market, which Meta retroactively now kind of allowed for the display as well, but I assume with we have to see if it's a comparable feature set in terms of development capabilities or if it's completely different.
I mean, what I mean is, of course, a Vuzix will not be replaced by that.
Exactly,
totally different thing, and we don't need to discuss about that. But when it's for that price and that features, if you think, okay, this is the glasses I need, it's like, okay, no problem. The price is no problem. But the price is a problem maybe when we think about, will these glasses be the glasses we actually hope will finally become something like a mainstream AR glasses, which everybody wants to have, like millions, not 20,000, not 100,000, but 1 million, 5 million, like not like the Meta Ray-Ban maybe, because that's also another form factor and much lighter and much more comfortable and cheaper, of course. But let's say, is it possible to reach 1 million with these glasses? Will it be a good start? And in 2 years, when they bring out the next version of it, will it be 5 millions? What do we think? Is this the way to go? Is this the finally a version where we can believe in this trajectory?
So my instinct tells me they're not gonna sell 1 million of those. Is that another step closer to in that trajectory? I think so. But I still believe we're relatively far off of that. Everyone wears fully featured AR glasses just every day, like they wear glasses, because you see where we are right now with this another step. And how long ago was Orion? I think 2 years ago, right? Or Meta Orion. That was 2 years ago, and they are half the weight, I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly, but I think they were lighter. But again, that's still not what we would need for that absolute mass adoption in terms of and what's the price point. So I think there is that's why he rightfully says it's a long-term perspective still to establish those as consumer devices. But I think this step will be much more compatible with a wide variety of use cases in terms of marketing or experiences, location-based experiences and things like that. I think they will be suitable. In other more professional work environments, there might be some problems like wearing them on your ear all day ergonomically and so on. But we'll see how the developers like the form factor and the capabilities in the end.
Yeah. I hope this would have been the glasses we were all waiting for. Consumers are way more complicated than easily attractable fanboys like we are, XR fanboys. So yeah, it will be very interesting to see what normal people will say to these glasses. Like when we have it on our meetup, let's see what they will say. Normal people are wearing it on the street or on somewhere. Like I can't wait to have it on an event, and then people ask me, okay, what are these glasses? And then they can say, okay, these are actually AR glasses. You mean with displays? Yes, finally there are displays in it. And I can't wait to wear them. This will be early next year, maybe, in the fastest trajectory, I guess. I will be very interested. I will try them. I will try to wear them all day, and I will tell you where it hurts. Exactly where it hurts. So that we can optimize on that.
That's the exciting part. Like the nerds in us that always, I just saw this VR graph someone posted on LinkedIn a few days ago with like 42 headsets on, and I realized I tried out 39 of those 41 headsets, and that's what excited us all the time. Not just the hardware, but how this develops, how it changes over time, how it improves bit by bit. So it's really cool to see this device come out, especially because HoloLens isn't there anymore and so on. So it's really cool to have this come up. When I think about from a business perspective, I would have to do a couple more rounds to really figure out what they're there for in terms of if you use them for B2B stuff,
Yes. So to close and finish this podcast episode, I think we said all the things. There will be more news coming up, and if you listen to Spatial Realities, there will be more episodes like that, and with more news. For example, the new Snapdragon chips. We will not talk about them right now, but there are also announcements about new chips from Snapdragon, which are supposed to be in the new X-Reels Aura Android XR device. Very interesting to listen. We will also talk about them in one of the next episodes. So stay tuned and join us for the next episodes, and also some advertisement here for our own product. Actually, again, there is on spatialrealities.de a calendar with, I think, the most complete XR calendar you will find there globally. All the events you can imagine are there from all the cities and countries of the world. So check out under spatialrealities.de and then click on XR calendar. If you have events you organize or you know that they are, just post the link at the bottom of the page. And then they will be added automatically to the calendar after the human in the loop, which is me in this case, but the AI will take care of it and push it to the system, and I will check if I did everything right. So check out also this event. You can also export it into your personal calendar, so you have all the events all the time and right in front of you, and don't miss a thing. All right, Thomas. I think
just
that's
posted an event in there while you were talking. So
nice. Awesome. I will check it out in a second. Thomas, I guess that's nice. And if you like the English versions, you start with the outro.
Okay, wait. I have to go back to the document. The outro. If you enjoyed... Wait, no. That's your part.
That's my part.
And that was a special episode of Spatial Realities.
It was special because you were in there, of course. Very nice. If you enjoy this podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you recommended it to others. Feel free to share the episode on social media, send them to colleagues and friends, and leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, a quick reminder about our Discord server. You can find a link to it in the show notes or at spatialrealities.de.
My name is Thomas Bedenk.
I'm Thomas Riedel.
Thanks for tuning in and see you next time.
See you.